What if the secret to a meaningful life is not in striving harder, but in surrendering more deeply to the flow of existence? What if we've been running in circles while the real path was always beneath our feet, still quiet, waiting to be noticed? To understand this, we begin by looking at nature. Imagine a river winding through valleys and forests. It does not fight the land. It does not resist the rocks in its way. It simply flows around them, patiently, persistently, elegantly, without rushing it always. Arrives, it always reaches the sea. Now look at a tree rooted deeply in the earth. It does not grow by force. It does not shout or struggle. It simply responds to the seasons, to the sun, to the rain. It expands slowly, steadily upward and outward. There is no stress in its stretch, only a natural unfolding. These are not just beautiful metaphors. These are the mirrors through which life reflects its deeper truths. The river and the tree are not lazy. They are wise. They are fully engaged in the moment, aligned with what is rather than what they think should be. This brings us to a principle, ancient and subtle, yet more relevant than ever in our modern world. Wu Wei, an idea from Taoist philosophy. Wu Wei is often translated as non-action, but this translation barely scratches the surface of its meaning. In reality, Wu Wei is about effortless action. It's about doing in such deep harmony with the natural order that it no longer feels like effort. Wu Wei is not idleness. It is not sitting back and waiting for life to serve you everything on a silver plate. It is awareness and alignment combined. It is moving when the time is right and remaining still, when action would only disturb the balance. It is like the martial artist who waits, poised and calm, then moves at the perfect moment, using the opponent's energy instead of brute force. It is strategy, grace, timing, and flow. Yet this is not how we are taught to live. Modern culture, especially in the West, celebrates effort and hustle. We are bombarded with messages that success comes only from constant motion. We are told to work hard, push through, never quit. We chase goals, schedules, and deadlines, accomplishments, until we collapse in a heap of exhaustion. We confuse busyness with purpose and activity with value. But does this constant pushing truly bring us closer to peace, fulfillment, or meaning? Or does it disconnect us from the deeper rhythm of life, the rhythm we see so clearly in rivers and trees? The Tao Te Ching, written over 2,000 years ago by Lao Tzu, offers a counterpoint. In it, he writes that water is the softest thing, yet it can overcome the hardest. It is the essence of Wu Wei. Water flows, it adapts. It carves through rock, not by force, but by persistence, not by noise, but by presence. It becomes a powerful metaphor for how to live. Water doesn't need a plan. It responds moment by moment. It moves without resistance and reaches its goal. Not in a straight line, but in the path of least resistance. To live like water is to embody Wu Wei. It is to act without strain. It is to allow things to unfold rather than trying to control every outcome. This is not passivity. This is not giving up on ambition. It is ambition with awareness. It is purpose without anxiety. It is movement that feels like stillness, because it is so deeply aligned. Consider your own life. How often have you tried to force a result? How often have you pushed a conversation, a relationship, a project, a dream, only to find more resistance, more tension, more struggle? Now contrast that with the moments when you set an intention, did your part and let things unfold. Those moments when you trusted life, trusted timing, trusted yourself more often than not. Those were the moments of true power, of unexpected ease, of surprising beauty. Wu Wei is not about abandoning effort. It is about reframing it. Instead of struggling upstream, It is choosing to float with the current. Instead of shouting into the wind, it is learning to whisper at the right time, in the right direction. It asks a simple but profound question. Are your actions coming from fear or from flow? From the need to control or from the space of trust? To live in Wu Wei is to act from your center, to allow action to arise naturally. From awareness rather than compulsion. It is to know when to speak and when silence is stronger, when to move and when to wait, when to hold on and when to let go. This way of being does not disconnect you from the world. On the contrary, it connects you more deeply. Wu Wei brings you into intimate contact with the rhythms of life. It teaches you to see, listen, and respond. It trains you to recognize the subtle cues of timing, energy, intuition. It is not about doing nothing. It is about doing the right thing at the right time in the right way. It is the art of invisible excellence, the kind of mastery that looks effortless because it is. The tree does not rush, and yet it grows. The river does not push, and yet it arrives. The artist does not force inspiration, but listens and responds. The dancer does not think with each step, but lets the music move them. This is Wu Wei, and it is available to all of us. Not as a technique, but as a way of life, a way of returning not to something new, but to something ancient already inside you. You were never meant to fight your way through every day. You were meant to flow, to grow, to rise in your own rhythm. Let the river guide you. Let the tree remind you. Let Wu Wei become not just an idea you understand, but a presence you embody, to take the wisdom of the river and the stillness of the tree and place it gently within the motion of modern life is not just a poetic idea, but a profound act of integration. What begins as a quiet philosophy can become a living way of being, a discipline that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. Wu Wei becomes real when it moves from the mind to the body, from the page to the breath. It is in the way you respond to traffic with calm instead of tension in how you speak. When others expect shouting in how you trust a pause when everything inside you wants to react. This kind of living is a return to something ancient, a simplicity beneath the noise. It is not always easy, especially in a world that rewards constant visibility and punishes stillness. But just because it is not easy does not mean it is not true. The world is loud, but truth is often quiet. There is a modern parallel that echoes the voice of Wu Wei in the language of science. It is called flow, a concept. Studied and popularized by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, flow is the state of a deep immersion, where you become one with the task, where time disappears and action feels effortless. Though the terminology is modern, the experience is ancient. In flow, like in Wu Wei, you do not push yourself into motion, you fall into it. You do not act from ego, but from presence. Athletes, artists, musicians, even scientists speak of this state. They describe it as being in the zone, as if some larger intelligence is guiding their movements. Thoughts fade, actions become instinctual. There is clarity without thinking, effort without strain. This is the space where Wu Wei lives, not in avoidance, but in absolute presence. Not in control, but in complete surrender to alignment. Consider the painter who does not plan every stroke, but allows the image to emerge from intuition. The writer who follows the characters instead of forcing the plot. The athlete who does not overtrain, but trains wisely. Listening to the body, rather than dominating it. These people are not passive. They are deeply engaged, but their effort is intelligent, timely harmonized with their inner rhythm and the world around them. They are not striving for success. They are expressing truth. Success simply follows. This leads to a subtle but vital distinction. Wu Wei is not the absence of effort, it is the absence of resistance. It is effort, purified, refined, stripped of tension and fear. It is not about never acting, but about never forcing. In this light, let us look at relationships. So often, we enter them with expectations, demands, and silent ultimatums. We try to mold people into who we want them to be. We try to speed up connection or cling to what is fading. But Wu Wei teaches something different. It invites you to show up fully, without gripping, to speak honestly, without control, to love, without possession. When you stop trying to fix or manage every outcome, space opens up for real intimacy to arise, not the kind built on performance, but the kind born of presence. To apply Wu Wei in relationships is to listen more deeply, to hear what is not said, to honor the timing of another's growth, to step back without withdrawing and step forward without intruding. The same wisdom applies to leadership. In a world obsessed with domination, true leadership through Wu Wei appears soft, almost invisible, yet its impact is undeniable. The best leaders are not those who shout the loudest, but those who understand the right time to speak. Those who cultivate environments of trust. Those who know that restraint is a form of power, that patience is a form of wisdom. Wu Wei does not mean you do nothing for your team. It means you act with awareness. You create space for others to rise. You move with the pulse of the group, not against it. You lead not by control, but by presence and clarity. Now let us explore creativity through this lens too. Often, we chase inspiration, force output, and punish ourselves when the muse is silent. But what if creativity is not something to chase, but something to allow? What if the best art does not come from pressure, but from freedom? Wu Wei offers us a way to create without ego, to trust that what needs to be expressed will emerge if we make space for it, to show up without attachment to outcome, to surrender the need to be original and instead be honest. This does not mean abandoning discipline. It means choosing discipline that honors your energy and respects the nature of creation. Sometimes the most creative thing you can do is rest. Sometimes the breakthrough arrives when you stop trying to break through. In all of this, there is a through line, a single thread weaving the philosophy together. Presence. When you are present, you do not need to control. When you are present, you can see clearly, act cleanly, rest fully. Being present is the foundation of Wu Wei and the entry point into flow. Presence does not mean ignoring the future or forgetting the past. It means not being ruled by either. It means standing fully where you are, feeling the texture of the moment and letting your action rise from that space, not from habit or fear. To live in this way requires practice. It requires courage to be still when others run. It requires clarity to listen when the world demands noise. It requires trust, not in outcomes, but in the unfolding of your own nature. This is the practice of effortless mastery, not mastery over others, but mastery over your own energy, your own choices, your own being. In the following parts of this journey, we will explore the stories of those who have lived this way, both ancient and modern. We will see how Wu Wei has shaped inventors, artists, leaders, and wanderers, how letting go of control gave them not just success, but peace, how surrender brought power, how presence gave birth to purpose. But before we go, stay here, just for a moment. Let go of the need to hurry. Let go of the need to finish anything. Feel your breath, the shape of your shoulders, the quiet between thoughts. In this moment right here, you are already in Wu Wei. You are already aligned. You don't need to chase it. You only need to remember. Philosophy becomes power only when it is lived, not just spoken, not just admired, but woven into the fabric of action and breath and decision. In this part of our journey, we turn towards stories, real and timeless tales where the quiet force of Wu Wei changed the course of events, not with thunder, but with stillness, not with dominance, but with grace. Let us begin not in a temple or monastery, but in a corporate lab. The year was 1968. A scientist named Spencer Silver was working at 3M, trying to invent a super strong adhesive. What he ended up with was the opposite, a very weak one that barely stuck to anything at all. By many measures, this was a failure, but Silver did not force his idea into oblivion. He did not discard it with disappointment. He simply shared it with those around him, spoke about it openly and curiously. Years later, a colleague named Art Fry remembered this peculiar glue when trying to solve a problem of his own. He wanted a bookmark that could stick to paper without damaging it. The solution came not from pressure or deadlines, but from the soft connection between two unrelated ideas. And so the post-it note was born, not from fierce ambition, but from openness and patience. Wu Wei moves like this, not in linear plans, but in spirals, in gentle touches in the spaces between effort. Now shift scenes to the world of music. The Beatles, during their later years, were facing both creative tension and personal strain. Amid this storm, Paul McCartney sat down at a piano one morning and let his fingers wander. He wasn't trying to write a hit. He wasn't even thinking about a song. And yet, let it be emerged from that still space. A song that would go on to define an era. It did not come from trying. It came from allowing, from listening, from letting go. Let It Be is not just a lyric. It is a Taoist teaching in disguise, a soft surrender that carries infinite strength. In sports, too, we find echoes of Wu Wei. In 1954, no one had run a mile in under 4 minutes. It was considered physiologically impossible. Athletes pushed harder, trained more aggressively, yet it was Roger Bannister, a medical student with limited training time, who would break the barrier. How he focused not on training more, but on training wisely, with clarity, precision, and recovery. His method was not to force, but to align, not to do more, but to do better. He trusted his rhythm, and the result reshaped athletic history. In each of these stories, we see a pattern. When action flows from awareness, not pressure from intuition, not rigidity from alignment, not control, the results are not only more successful, they are more sustainable. They carry a different energy, an energy that invites rather than insists. Consider now a woman traveling alone in Venice. She had planned every detail, printed, itineraries scheduled, visits, mapped routes. But on her second day, a sudden gust of wind took her plans from her hands and scattered them into the canal. No phone signal, no backup, just herself and a city she no longer controlled. At first, she panicked. Then she paused. She took a breath. She let the city lead her rather than the other way around. She wandered. She listened. She followed the scent of baking bread, the sound of music down a narrow alley. She found hidden courtyards, met strangers who became friends, stumbled into an impromptu opera in a quiet piazza. She returned home without a single tourist, box checked, but with a heart full of real moments. This is the reward of Wu Wei, not what is expected, but what is alive. Each of us has experienced this, even if we did not name it. Think of the moments when you were at your best, when you said the right thing without preparing, when you moved effortlessly through a challenge, when your hands knew what to do before your mind caught up. These are the glimmers of Wu Wei, slipping through the cracks of modern life, reminding you of your original rhythm to live. Like this is not to give up planning or ambition. It is to approach both with loosened hands. It is to plant seeds, but not strangle them with expectation. It is to show up fully and then release control. Even in business, Wu Wei is not only relevant, it is revolutionary. In a marketplace that rewards speed and noise, the quiet strength of alignment can cut through the chaos. Companies that succeed long-term are often those that listen before they act, that adapt instead of forcing innovation, that care more about the right direction than fast results. Wu Wei in strategy is about sensing the winds and setting the sail rather than building a bigger engine. The same applies to leadership. A wise leader knows when to step forward and when to step back. They recognize that the best decisions often come after stillness, not before. They delegate, not because they are passive, but because they understand that true power flows, not from control, but from trust. This way of living, this path of effortless mastery does not require you to renounce the world. It asks only that you meet it differently, that you do not enter every moment with clenched fists, but with open palms, that you do not see problems as enemies, but as rivers, asking you to adjust your course. Life is not a wall to be climbed. It is a current to be felt. When we stop trying to conquer it, we begin to move with it, and it begins to move through us. In the next part of our journey, we will look even deeper into the philosophy behind Wu Wei and how traditions like Zen Buddhism and Hindu non-attachment reflect the same essence across cultures, across centuries, across the quiet pulse of being itself. But for now, breathe, let your shoulders drop, let the thoughts soften. Just for a few moments, do not try to get anywhere, and watch what arises in the space that opens. If philosophy stays on the page, it dies. If wisdom is not lived, it becomes decoration. Wu Wei invites us to take what we know and let it reshape the smallest actions, the way we rise in the morning, the way we speak intention, the way we hold silence, and how we approach every choice, from breakfast to business to belonging. To live Wu Wei in the modern world is not about escaping from it. It is not about retiring to a mountain or giving up ambition. It is about softening the ego enough so that presence returns, so that decisions come from clarity, not fear, so that energy is not wasted on pushing what needs to unfold. There is a line from Lao Tzu that says, "When you let go of what you are, you become what you might be." This is not a call to self-erasure, but to self-realization. Beneath layers of effort and defense, beneath our roles and our plans, there is a current that knows how to carry us. We have only to listen. Listening becomes the first practice of Wu Wei, not just to words, but to pauses, not just to logic, but to life. When you are about to respond, pause. When you are about to act, check the energy beneath the impulse. Is it fear or is it truth? Is it pressure or presence? Is it force or flow? This is not overthinking. This is a return to the intelligence beneath the mind, a deeper knowing that most of us were trained to ignore. As children, we knew how to rest, how to play, how to follow curiosity without needing outcomes. We forgot. We became efficient, but not wise, busy, but not alive. Wu Wei is not a regression, it is a remembering. It is the integration of skill and surrender, awareness and timing, the full participation in life without the disease of control. And this is key. Wu Wei is not about doing nothing. It is about doing the right thing in the right way, at the right time. For some, this may look like saying less. For others, it may mean standing up when it is uncomfortable. It is not passive, it is precise. Like a master archer who releases the arrow only after years of alignment and breath and stillness. This alignment is the essence of all true success, not the fleeting high of external reward, but the quiet joy of doing something with total presence with inner rightness, whether or not it is recognized from the outside. So how does this look in daily life? Begin by noticing where your actions come from. Notice when you are pushing, rushing, reacting. Notice the cost of those moments, not just in results, but in your body, your breath, your joy. Then experiment with pausing, with doing less, with doing slower, with doing nothing until the right action becomes clear. In work, this might mean saying no to things that drain your energy, or trusting someone else to lead, or giving a project room to breathe. In love, it might mean not fixing every discomfort, but holding space for the natural unfolding of understanding. In health, it might mean resting without guilt, exercising for nourishment, not punishment, sleeping, more laughing, more allowing joy without earning it. These are not radical changes. They are subtle shifts, but they reshape the foundation from which all your actions rise. And from that foundation, something new begins to grow, not out of strain, but out of spaciousness. This is the paradox. When you stop trying so hard to succeed, success begins to visit you. When you stop forcing people to understand you, real connection opens. When you stop controlling every detail, life begins to surprise you again, with beauty you did not plan for. The idea of control is an illusion, seductive but brittle. It makes us feel safe, but keeps us anxious. It builds walls that keep out not only chaos, but also magic. Wu Wei is the art of moving without those walls, with trust, not in outcomes, but in the dance itself. Still, there will be times when letting go feels terrifying, when action feels urgent, when fear demands reaction. That is part of the practice too, to be with discomfort without escaping, to move through confusion with breath, to walk with doubt without letting it drag you into panic. The more you practice, the more your inner rhythm reawakens, the more you trust the silence between things, the more you see that life was never asking you to force your way through. It was asking you to listen, to respond, to align. This is what it means to live in harmony, not with a perfect life, not with a plan that never breaks, but with the changing weather of being with the winds that rise and fall and carry us when we stop gripping so tightly to the wheel. As the Tao says, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. The seasons shift without announcement. The sun rises without effort. The flower does not push its petals open. It waits. It feels it. Follows something deeper than thought. And so can you. In this moment, you can stop pushing. You can breathe. You can trust that you are allowed to be here. That you do not need to prove your worth with endless effort. That your value is not in how fast you climb, but in how fully you arrive. If Wu Wei could speak in this final breath of our journey, it would not lecture or command. It would whisper, return. Return to the stillness beneath the noise, to the awareness beneath the thought, to the ease that's control. You are finally ready to be in flow, and from that place everything becomes possible. Let go, breathe, trust. This is the art of not trying, and this is the beginning of everything.